Number one is that jamming and why a gun might have jammed 3 times and needed to be hit like that. And number two, I thought it was a silencer, and you've disabused me of that. What is the difference of a silencer and a suppressor? And would that have meant none of us could hear all this?
A silencer is just the civilian word for suppressor. It's what they call it in the movies, but technically it's a suppressor because it changes the sound. It doesn't make it silent.
So what about the jamming? And we'll run some of the video again.
So we don't really know.
That shows him hitting.
I'm not sure that the gun is actually jamming so much as failure to feed. So they're different. And what Scott was showing was called a stovetop jam. But essentially, in order for the ammo to get from here to here, which is where it fires, so normally the bullet is sitting, right here. When the gun goes off, as the bullet goes out the front, the casing exerts force against the back, and that cycles the gun. So in a proper cycling, that goes all the way back and then comes forward. And then when it comes back again, it ejects around and then it comes forward. But if you're using subsonic ammo, which is ammo that has a velocity of less than 1,100 feet per second, because you want it to be very quiet, it sometimes is underpowered. And so the slide will come back a little bit, but not far enough to eject that casing and not far enough to load the next round. It'll go back partly, and because now you just have a spent casing in there, you would manually have to throw that spent casing out in order to get the next one in. So he could be having that short cycling because of a lack of powder and subsonic ammo, or if you saw in his stance, which was a reverse weaver stance, where he had his shooting foot forward. Typically, you would have your shooting foot back. He's got his feet. Yeah, there you go. So he's got a proper footwork there, but you look, his left leg is up on its side. So I'm right on there with Scott. You would have optimal positioning if you were a professional, not alternating your feet forward and backwards between your shots. And you would have tested this gun to make sure that it cycles properly with the ammo. It seems like he anticipated that the gun might not cycle, so he may have practiced with that subsonic ammo. And I also agree with Scott on the distance issue. That's a lot of distance unnecessarily placed between himself and the subject. Okay,
I got two more questions. Yeah. I have 2 more questions and not enough time. So first one goes to you, Steve, and that is that when he's popping out the ejected casings, they're still scattered on the sidewalk and 3 live rounds. Can you explain that and how that could be really beneficial to the investigators?
Well, the gun can leave marks on the casings, and then those can help track that to the gun. It leaves marks on the casings, and the firing pin also leaves a mark on the primer, which is also unique to each gun. So those things could be used to help trace the gun if they locate it. The other thing that can inhibit the cycling of the gun is that if you don't hold the gun firmly, and so typically you would want this arm straight so that you're able to keep the gun frame in place so that the slide can go all the way back. But you'll see in that video, he's got his shooting arm cocked and his support arm straight, which is also backwards. And that will also lead to a short cycling of the gun.
Not a super pro. Okay, just a couple seconds left. But Scott, the way he exited, he walked quietly. He was never nervous. He wasn't jumpy. He did his shooting. He walked right up to the victim, shot again, sauntered off quietly into the streets of Manhattan. What does that tell you, and what does that do for cops who are investigating?
That looks to me like it's an adrenaline dump he's had, because he's building up this. He's been waiting for it. He's been in the coffee shop. He's been staying around. No telling how long he's been waiting. So he does the shooting, and when he's finished, all that anger and everything that he's got locked inside is sort of released. And that adrenaline, after that big dump of adrenaline, then he starts to relax, but he's just angry as he leaves. That's why we see that waddle as he's going away. because you'll notice he walks almost normally at the top. He doesn't walk at the gait of a military person or a police officer. But then he gets that waddle as he's paying attention to the gun because he's trying to keep his balance. He's not used to doing things like this. He's not a proficient gun handler. So I think that's an adrenaline dump. And after that, you're sort of worn out. And with all the anger and all that, I think that's what we're seeing him experience there. That's why the slow walk.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.